Okay, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling the 48 Laws of Power. This book, it's a bit like Machiavelli from modern times.
Definitely has that vibe.
We're going to break down some of Greene's most interesting, maybe even controversial laws about how people get and use power.
Yeah.
But the goal here is to help you, not to turn you into some, like, Machiavellian mastermind.
Right. It's about understanding the game, not necessarily, always playing to win at all costs.
Exactly. So first up is Law 1. Never outshine the master. Sounds pretty basic, right?
Yeah.
Don't make your boss feel threatened.
Yeah, but Greene, he takes it a step further. It's not just about keeping your head down.
Oh, so there's more to it.
Think about it. If you only ever avoid making your boss look bad, you're not actually, how do I put this? You're playing defensively, not aiming to stand out yourself.
Okay, so how do you stand out without stepping on toes?
Greene uses this example of Nicolas Fouquet, this guy who was finance minister to King Louis XIV, threw a massive party, thought he was honoring the king. Huge mistake.
What happened?
The party was so extravagant, it basically outshone the king himself.
Oof, I could see how that wouldn't go over well.
Not at all. Fouquet, without meaning to, showed he was, in some ways, more powerful than the king. Didn't end well for him.
Yeah, talk about misreading the room. So have you ever been in a situation where someone totally botched the power dynamics like that? Could be at work, even with family, right?
Happens all the time. And this law isn't saying to hide your talents. It's about being smart about how you present them. Like, Greene also talks about Cesare Borgia, this historical figure who got rid of anyone he saw as a threat.
Okay, so there's a difference between strategically showcasing your skills and just straight up sabotaging others.
Big difference. The takeaway here is to get a read on the people in power. Are they insecure? Do they nurture talent? You got to adjust your approach accordingly.
Okay, makes sense. So on to Law 2. And this one's a bit counterintuitive. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Wait, aren't friends supposed to be like the people we trust the most?
It's not about distrusting everyone. Greene's point is that an enemy's intentions are usually pretty clear. They want to take you down. But a friend, they might have motives you don't see, even if they don't mean to hurt you.
It's like that saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Something like that. Think about Emperor Michael III of Byzantium, betrayed by his closest friend. Talk about a backstab.
Brutal. And it doesn't have to be that dramatic. A friend could be jealous or try to help in a way that actually undermines you.
It's about being aware, Don't let assumptions about loyalty blind you.
So carefully evaluate all relationships, friend or foe. What are their motivations? Actions matching their words.
Exactly. And the using enemies part, it's not literal. It's more like sometimes a declared opponent is easier to deal with than a so-called friend.
Yeah, at least you know where you stand. No hidden agenda.
Exactly. This doesn't mean go out and make enemies. Just be cautious about blind faith.
Good advice. So, listener, has someone you thought was a friend ever let you down? What were the signs you missed?
And on the flip side, ever had someone you considered an adversary surprise you by being helpful? Greene is all about these complex dynamics.
Okay, on to Law 3. Conceal your intentions. This feels very, movie villain,
More like strategic thinking. Think of it like poker. Don't show your hand too early. Applies to negotiations, business, even relationships.
Right. Greene talks about Yellow Kid Weil, this con artist who is amazing at deception, like his Giesel Lodge scam. Totally elaborate.
Wiesel knew how to play people, their greed, their ambition. He'd distract them with what they wanted so they wouldn't see what he was really doing.
It's psychology, right? But without being, like, evil about it.
There's a line between persuasion and manipulation.
For sure. Greene also mentions Emperor Selassie of Ethiopia. He tricked a warlord, Balcha, by making him feel safe before making his move. Timing is everything.
It's about being patient, waiting for the right moment.
Okay, but we're not emperors or con men. How do we use this?
Think about your goals. Who's involved? What information do you need to keep secret to have an advantage?
Don't reveal your hand too early.
Exactly. A little mystery goes a long way.
Speaking of mystery, Law 4. Use decoyed objects of desire and red herrings to throw people off the scent. Sounds like a spy movie.
It's about distraction, controlling what people perceive, like stagecraft, but for real life.
Greene talks about P.T. Barnum. The guy was a master of hype, knew how to grab people's attention.
Barnum understood what people crave. Novelty, excitement. He'd create these illusions to keep them guessing.
So have you ever been totally fooled by misdirection? Could be a magician or even a friend changing the subject.
We're bombarded with distractions constantly. The key is to be aware of them.
Greene also mentions Coriolanus, this Roman general. His attempts to manipulate public opinion backfired big time. So there's a limit to how much you can, play with people.
Absolutely. Got to be subtle. If it's too obvious, people see through it.
Don't be too clever for your own good.
Right.
Okay, Law 5, concentrate your forces. This feels super relevant now when everyone's pulled in so many directions.
It's about focus. Like Greene uses the mining analogy. Better to find a rich vein and dig deep than keep hopping around.
So find your strength and go all in.
Exactly. Find your niche and dominate it.
He uses the Rothschild family as an example. They made strategic marriages to consolidate their power.
Exactly. They understood focus, aligning their resources.
He also says don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Right, like relying on one patron or client. He brings up Cesare Borgia again, lost everything when his dad, the Pope, died.
So balance focus with having backups.
Exactly. Have a main plan, but be ready to pivot.
So listener, what are your strengths? What are you passionate about? Where can you concentrate your forces to make the biggest impact?
It's crazy how these laws, they kind of build on each other, concealing intentions, using decoys, focusing your energy. It all ties together.
It's like Greene is giving us a strategy guide. Okay, what's the next move? Law 6. Play to people's fantasies.
Ooh, this one is all about psychology, tapping into what people want even if they don't realize it. Greene tells this great story about Lola Montez. She was an actress, a dancer, totally captivated King Ludwig I of Bavaria.
Wait, the kind of fantasy I'm thinking of? Sounds a little,
It's a complicated story. Lola, she was a master at giving Ludwig what he craved. Escape, admiration, stuff his royal life didn't provide. She created this whole fantasy world, and he fell for it hard, so hard he abdicated the throne.
Wow. So she used his desires to gain power.
Exactly. Lola understood that people are driven by their subconscious even if they don't know it, and she knew how to tap into that.
Kind of unsettling, but also makes you think about how marketing works, creating that image, that lifestyle we supposedly want.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just products. Think about politicians, how they appeal to our emotions, our hopes, our fears.
So how do we use this in, an ethical way? We're not trying to manipulate people.
Right. It's about understanding motivation, creating win-win situations. Like, say you want to pitch a project to your boss. Don't just give the dry facts. Frame it in a way that appeals to their ambition.
Instead of saying this will boost efficiency, say this will make us industry leaders.
Exactly. Same info, but it speaks to what they desire.
Clever. Okay, on to Law 7. Discover each man's thumbscrew. This one sounds kind of intense.
It does sound harsh, yeah. But remember, Greene's writing about power, and power sometimes means knowing people's weak points.
So finding that one thing that makes someone tick that you can use.
It's about gathering information, what motivates them, what they fear, what they secretly desire.
He tells that story about Joseph Duveen, the art dealer. He sold a painting to Henry Clay Frick, who was super vain, by basically telling him only a true art expert would get it.
And of course, Frick ate it up. Had to have it.
So how do we use this without being like jerks?
It's not about exploitation. It's about using your knowledge to create a good outcome for both sides. Like, you're negotiating a salary. Research the company. Find out what they value.
If they're all about innovation, you emphasize your creative side.
Right. You're not tricking them, just presenting yourself in the best possible light.
Okay. Using psychology, but ethically.
Yeah.
I like it. Next up, Law 8. Create compelling spectacles. Seems pretty straightforward. Visuals matter, right?
It's true, but it's deeper than that. People are swayed by what they see more than what they hear. Think about charismatic leaders, amazing performances, even just a beautiful sunset.
Greene uses Cleopatra's grand entrance into Tarsus as an example. She arrived on the super lavish barge, dressed as a goddess, totally over the top.
And it worked. She knew visuals create a lasting impression. It wasn't just her words. She created this whole image of power and allure.
Makes you think about social media and how everyone's crafting their image.
Oh, big time. Companies do it too. Branding, marketing, it's all about creating a feeling, an emotional connection.
So how do we use this without, being fake?
It's about authentic self-presentation. How you dress, how you carry yourself, what image do you want to project?
It's not about being superficial. It's about aligning your image with your goals.
Right. And it goes beyond looks. It's how you communicate, the stories you tell.
Okay, this next one sounds a bit cryptic. Law 9. Stir up waters to catch fish. What does that even mean?
It's like a strategic version of keep your enemies closer. Stay calm, watch carefully, but deliberately provoke a reaction in others.
So be the eye of the storm. Everyone else is freaking out, but you're chill.
Exactly. That gives you the advantage. You see their weaknesses, their emotions, and you can control the situation.
Greene talks about Harry Houdini. He'd sometimes reveal a fake weakness, just to bait his rivals into challenging him.
Then he'd crush them. It was a brilliant way to guarantee a win.
That's amazing. Okay, how do we do this without, becoming escape artists?
Think about times you feel pressured. Negotiations, job interviews, even arguments.
Don't get swept up in the emotions. Take a step back and observe.
Right. Figure out their motivation, what makes them tick.
So staying calm helps you think clearly.
Exactly.
Okay, Law 10. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal. This sounds like a power move.
It totally is. It's about framing choices so that no matter what they pick, you win.
Greene tells the story of Ivan the Terrible. He basically gave the Russian nobles a choice: total loyalty or exile and death.
A classic false choice. Either way, he got what he wanted.
So it's like creating a win-win where you always win.
You got it. And it doesn't have to be that intense. You can use it subtly, like in a negotiation.
Instead of, do you want to buy this?
Yeah.
You say, do you want the basic or deluxe package?
Exactly. Still a choice, but you've limited the options to what works for you.
This is genius. I can see this being useful in so many situations.
Oh, yeah. It's about strategy. Anticipating moves, having the upper hand.
Like that other law, when asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest.
They're connected, right? Absolutely. People are motivated by what benefits them, so frame your requests in a way that highlights that.
Instead of, remember when I helped you, it's, this is a chance for you to gain experience.
Or let's team up on this and impress the higher-ups.
Make it a win for them, too.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're being strategic. But what about gathering information? Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. Any tips on that?
This one sounds sneaky, but it's not about being a literal spy, more about observation, paying attention to the subtle cues people give off.
So it's about reading between the lines.
Right. Greene says be like a spy in everyday life. Notice what people say, how they react, their body language. Are they truly being open or hiding something?
It's like becoming a human lie detector.
In a way, yeah. You're learning to decipher people's true intentions.
This seems especially important online, with social media and all that. How much of what we see is real?
That's a great point. This law is about being more discerning, developing critical thinking skills, and being aware of manipulation.
So it's not just listening. It's actively analyzing what we hear and see.
Exactly. Taking control of our own perceptions, not letting others dictate them.
Okay, this next law is pretty intense. Law 15, crush your enemy totally. That sounds ruthless.
It does, yeah. But it's important to remember the context. Greene's writing about power struggles, often historical ones, like Moses or other figures who had to make tough choices to maintain order.
He even says more is lost through stopping halfway than through total annihilation. That's a pretty strong statement.
He's advocating for decisiveness, but we're not talking about literal violence, of course. It's about being thorough, making sure problems are fully solved.
So practically speaking, it's about not letting things fester, addressing issues head on.
Exactly. Like, you have a conflict with a coworker, don't avoid it, talk it out, find a solution that works for both of you.
So be assertive, be proactive, don't let things escalate.
Right. It's about taking control and neutralizing the threat, whatever that might be.
This seems especially relevant in competitive fields, where there's always someone trying to get ahead.
It can be, yeah. It's about knowing the rules of the game and protecting yourself. But always ethically, of course.
This reminds me of Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Seems like the opposite of crushing your enemy, but maybe they're related.
They are. It's about choosing your battles. Sometimes surrendering is the smartest move.
Greene even says it can mess with your opponent, make them overconfident.
Exactly. Appearing weak can be a trap. It's classic reverse psychology.
So listener, think about a time when surrendering might have been the best move. Maybe a negotiation, an argument.
It's a powerful tool, but use it wisely. Know when to retreat, when to wait, and when to strike back.
And speaking of focusing your energy, Law 23 is literally called concentrate your forces.
It's like a reminder of that core principle. Focus your energy like a laser beam, not a scattered light.
Find your one thing and become amazing at it.
Exactly. Be the master of your craft, not a jack of all trades.
And again, don't rely on just one patron or source of support.
Right. Diversify. Always have backup plans.
Okay, Law 28. Enter action with boldness. This feels so relevant today when it's easy to get overwhelmed by choices.
It's about being decisive. Greene says hesitation breeds doubt, boldness creates momentum.
He uses the example of Victor Lustig, the guy who sold the Eiffel Tower. That took some serious guts.
Lustig knew how to play on people's emotions, their greed, their fascination with the impossible.
So this law is telling us to be fearless, take risks.
Yes, but calculated risks. Boldness without a plan is just, well, reckless.
Right. Be strategic, not impulsive.
Exactly. It's knowing when to strike and doing it with confidence.
This one seems pretty basic, but I bet Greene has a twist on it. Law 29, plan all the way to the end.
It's about having a vision, but also anticipating obstacles. He talks about Vasco Núñez de Balboa, the explorer who wouldn't let anything stop him from reaching the Pacific.
So it's not just about the goal, it's about being resourceful along the way.
Exactly. Have a plan A, B, and C.
Okay, this next one is tricky. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. How do you do that without downplaying your hard work?
It's about presentation. Make it look like success comes naturally to you.
Greene says don't look like you're trying too hard, even if you are.
It's about projecting mastery. It can be incredibly influential.
This is all about perception. Right?
Absolutely. Control the narrative. Make yourself impressive but approachable.
Think about athletes, musicians. They make it look so easy. But we know it takes years of practice.
Right. That's true mastery. Making the hard stuff look simple.
Now for a law about something we all struggle with. Law 36, disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge.
This is about the power of indifference. Greene says that when you ignore something you can't have, you take away its power over you.
He uses the example of King Henry VIII obsessing over Anne Boleyn. Caused a lot of chaos.
Greene says if Henry had just moved on, he could have avoided all that drama.
So it's about recognizing when to let go.
Exactly. Focus on what you can control.
But it's also about maintaining your dignity. Right.
Absolutely. Don't be consumed by what you can't have. Choose to ignore it.
This one sounds like a spy tactic. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others.
It's about social conformity. Sometimes you gotta blend in, even if you don't agree with everything.
He talks about this philosopher, Tommaso Campanella. He was imprisoned for heresy, but then wrote a book defending Catholicism. But he secretly embedded his own ideas in it.
Campanella knew openly challenging the system was dangerous, so he pretended to conform while still expressing himself.
So have you ever had to, play along even if you didn't agree? Work, school, family?
It's not about being a mindless follower. It's knowing when to blend in and when to stand out.
It's about survival, but also strategic self-expression.
Right, finding that balance.
Okay, Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. What's the mirror effect?
Reflecting someone's behavior back at them, it can really throw them off. Greene tells a story about a merchant who pretends to believe a rat ate his iron just to disarm a suspicious friend.
So reverse psychology. Make them question themselves.
Exactly. Mirroring creates confusion, gives you the upper hand.
Greene also says it can be used to mock someone, make them overreact.
It can, but be careful. Don't be insincere. Subtlety is key.
I bet this works well on people who need to be in control.
Oh, yeah. Take away their power by mirroring it right back at them.
Okay, this one is for leaders. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once.
People don't like change, especially if it's sudden.
So introduce change gradually. Make it seem natural.
Exactly. Respect people's need for familiarity. Meet them where they are.
He uses the example of playwright Joe Orton. His sudden fame messed up his relationship with his partner. The power dynamic shifted too fast.
Orton's story is a cautionary tale. Manage change carefully.
Change can be disruptive, even when it's good.
Absolutely. Be thoughtful and strategic about it.
Okay, here's a counterintuitive one. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. Don't we want to strive for perfection?
We do, but Greene says appearing too perfect makes people envious.
He talks about the Athenians. They'd exile anyone they thought was too powerful or influential.
It was about balance, preventing anyone from getting too dominant.
So don't let your success alienate people.
Right. Stay humble, relatable.
Remember, we're all human. We all have flaws.
And those flaws can make you more likable.
This next law feels so relevant to modern life. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop.
It's about setting boundaries, knowing when you've achieved enough. Greene says overreaching can ruin you. Like the Spartans, they became arrogant after winning the Peloponnesian War.
They couldn't adapt. Their victory was their downfall.
Exactly. They didn't know when to quit.
So be ambitious, but also know when to consolidate your wins.
Right. True power isn't endless expansion. It's knowing when to stop and enjoy what you've achieved.
It's about building a lasting legacy.
Yes. Make a difference, but don't burn yourself out.
Last one for today. Yeah, it's a head scratcher. Law 48. Assume formlessness. How can you be powerful if you have no form?
Think of it as ultimate adaptability. Greene says fixed plans make you predictable, but if you're formless, you can flow around obstacles, exploit weaknesses.
Like water, he says, finds a way through any crack.
Exactly. Formlessness is about being flexible, responsive.
This is perfect for today's world where things change so fast.
You got to be able to adapt, embrace uncertainty, turn it into an advantage.
So we've covered a lot today. Never outshining the master, all the way to being formless. It's been quite the journey through the 48 laws of power. We'll be back in a sec to wrap things up. So we've covered a lot of ground, from never outshining the master to assuming formlessness. It's been quite a journey through the 48 laws of power. What's the biggest takeaway for you after looking at all these laws?
You know, for me, it's that it really hits home that power isn't static. It's not about just being dominant or forceful. It's more like understanding the currents, the subtle things, and using them well.
Yeah, like a game of chess almost.
Exactly. You're thinking ahead, you've got to have a plan, but also be ready to adapt.
And it's not always about beating someone else, right? It's also about knowing yourself, strengths, weaknesses, that whole deal.
Absolutely. A lot of what Greene talks about is self-awareness. Like that law never appeared too perfect.
Right. Showing some vulnerability can actually make you stronger,
Yeah.
especially when you're trying to connect with people, build trust.
Totally. Trying to seem flawless can make you come across as, I don't know, unapproachable, even arrogant.
This whole deep dive has really got me thinking about, like, my own life. Power dynamics are everywhere, not just in boardrooms or whatever.
Oh, for sure. It's not always about being the loudest or the most in charge.
Sometimes it's about being observant, strategic, maybe even a little bit influential in a subtle way. So, for our listeners, what's one thing they can do, starting today, to better navigate their own power situations?
Start paying attention, really noticing the unspoken dynamics in your everyday life. Who has the power? What do they want? What do you want?
It's like putting on a new set of lenses,
Hmm.
right? Seeing the world differently.
Yeah, once you start seeing these power dynamics, you can't unsee them. And that awareness, that's power in itself.
And remember, these laws, they're not like commandments. It's more like Greene is giving us a map of human behavior, showing how power works, for good or for bad.
Exactly. It's up to each of us to decide how we use that knowledge, for good, for personal gain, or maybe a little bit of both.
That's a great point. So much to think about. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought, maybe even some new strategies to try out. Keep observing, keep strategizing, and until next time, keep those power dynamics in check.